Hey ladies, it's Kenya Winston here, back with another episode of Kenya Knows. We are finally on episode 4, so this is really exciting. I can't wait to talk about the topic that I'm going to be discussing today, which is of course Sam Darnold. I am going to be discussing Sam Darnold and his interesting, tumultuous, and incredible NFL career. I'm going to talk about him playing at San Clemente High School, playing college football at USC, being drafted 3rd overall to the New York Jets, becoming a NFL journeyman, eventually landing at the Seattle Seahawks and playing in the Super Bowl. So let's dive into it. So Sam Darnold was born in Capistrano Beach, California. His grandfather was Dick Hammer, who played basketball at USC. He was a star, and he was also a 1964 Olympic volleyball player. In high school, he was known as a dual threat. In his senior year, he put up about 3,000 passing yards, 39 touchdowns. He ran for 800 yards. He even rushed for 13 rushing touchdowns, which is something that I did not know. So that was pretty interesting to find out. And then he eventually went to play college football at USC. 2016 was a breakout year for him. He started the season off on the bench, but he eventually became a starter, and he went 9-1. He capped it off with one of the most legendary Rose Bowl performances. I don't know if you guys remember that game, the Rose Bowl, where it was USC versus Penn State. That was also a legendary game from Saquon Barkley, but he threw for 450 yards, 5 touchdowns. Insane. Saquon Barkley, like I said, also had an incredible game. I mean, they were so close to winning that game. Unfortunately, Trace McSorley, who was the quarterback for Penn State, threw a game-losing pick. So, that happened. In 2017, Sam Darnold actually became the first USC quarterback to throw for over 4,000 yards. In a single season, he threw for 4,100 yards. He threw 26 touchdowns and 13 interceptions. He then entered the 2018 draft as the can't-miss prospect. And of course, just like Trevor Lawrence, analysts were calling him the next Andrew Luck. He was then drafted 3rd overall in 2018 to a team who had a bottom-tier offense and no offensive weapons whatsoever, and of course that was the New York Jets. He played under Todd Bowles in 2018, and then he also played under the infamous Adam Gase from 2019 to 2020. This is where the adversity starts to kick in. In 38 starts, he went 13-25, and he was sacked 98 times in 3 seasons. Damn! On October 21st in 2019, versus the New England Patriots, he was mic'd up saying he was seeing ghosts.
Seeing ghosts.
While being pressured on 42% of his dropbacks. This became the stain his doubters used to label him a bust. In 2020, the Jets' defense ranked 26 in points allowed, forcing Darnold to play hero ball, leading to 11 interceptions in just 12 games. Everybody knows how bad this Jets situation is, especially when it comes to the organization, the front office. The owner is horrible. They never had a great offense. They still don't have a good offense. The defense, while this year was 26 in points allowed, remember in the Zach Wilson days, that defense was top 5 for 2 straight years. They had one of the best defenses in the league, but they could still never build an offense. So obviously now we look back at this and say, hey, Sam Darnold was not the only quarterback who was put in a bad situation in terms of the Jets building an actual team around him. Now, obviously, Zach Wilson was a bust for other reasons because he just wasn't a good quarterback. But hey, when Sam Darnold gets put in a good situation, we see what he can be and we see what he has become. But this leads us to the next section that I like to call the journeyman. After his really bad 3 seasons at the New York Jets, he was then traded to the Carolina Panthers for a 2nd, a 4th, and a 6th round pick. He started off really, really well. I mean, I even remember some of the talks that were being had about Sam Darnold and his play because he started off 3-0. But unfortunately, the offensive line was disintegrated and they collapsed after that 3-0 start. In 2021, he had a career low 71.9 passer rating, and the fans and the media officially gave up on him. Baker Mayfield actually was traded there, and we all saw how that went. It pretty much went the same exact way. Fans gave up on Baker during his time with the Carolina Panthers, but he eventually gets traded to the Buccaneers, and we all see what he has become. So after Sam Darnold's stint with the Carolina Panthers, he then gets traded to the 49ers under Kyle Shanahan. He was signed as a backup to Brock Purdy in 2023. Now, this was probably the beginning of his rise. He only threw 48 passes all year, but he studied under one of the best offensive minds in the entire NFL, and that was Kyle Shanahan. He learned how to process a high-level NFL offense without the pressure of being the starter. The true turnaround came when he signed a one-year deal to play for the Minnesota Vikings under Kevin O'Connell. He credited Kevin O'Connell for fixing his footwork and his confidence. This was damn near an MVP-like season for Sam Darnold. He threw for a career-high 4,300 yards and 35 touchdowns. He led the Vikings to a 14-win season, and despite the stats, the critics still claimed he was a system quarterback who only looked good because of Justin Jefferson. But let's be honest, if you watch Sam Darnold, his play as an individual quarterback, you can clearly see the improvements being made, especially when it came to his pocket presence, his ability to read a defense, his ability to throw the ball down the field. His interceptions were decreased that season. When the Vikings lost in the playoffs due to a 9-sack performance by the Rams, the narrative was that Sam still couldn't handle the pressure. Now, unfortunately, the Vikings did not keep Sam Darnold, a decision that I'm pretty sure they went on to regret, because the Seattle Seahawks then picked up Sam Darnold. They signed him to a 3-year deal. Now, this season, Sam Darnold was incredible. He basically put up almost the exact same stats in Seattle that he did in the Vikings last year. He had a top 5 wide receiver in JSN. He had another top 5 defense. He had a top 5 head coach, defensive-minded head coach, and Clint Kubiak was a very impressive, very amazing offensive coordinator for Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold has thrown 4,000 yards, 25 touchdowns, and 14 interceptions. He led the NFL in 70% completion on deep balls, 20-plus air yards. Now, his career-defining game, let's be honest, was in the NFC Championship game versus the Rams. The Seattle Seahawks beat the Rams 31-27, and they beat the Rams because of Sam Darnold. They got to the Super Bowl because of him. His stat line was amazing in this game. He went 25 for 36, throwing for 346 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. Mind you, before this game happened, he went on a 3-game streak where he didn't throw 1 interception. He silenced all the critics, and I mainly mean Stephen A. Smith. All 3 of his touchdowns passes came under pressure, which was a next-gen stat record for a playoff game. He played through an oblique injury to lead his team to the Super Bowl, and this was the Seattle Seahawks' first Super Bowl appearance since 2014. You know, what made this game so incredible was that once again we saw Sam Darnold and Matthew Stafford go band for band. Matthew Stafford threw like 380 passing yards, 3 touchdowns to 0 interceptions. He also had an amazing game, but this game came down to coaching decisions, and defense. But to get back to Sam Darnold, when I look at the career of Sam Darnold, right, you know, I didn't watch a lot of him, especially in the NFL, because if you guys don't know, I started watching football, NFL football to be exact, in 2020. So prior to that, I remember some games, I remember some plays, but I don't remember a season-to-season basis. So I am not 100% sure from an eye test point of view what Sam Darnold looked like at the Jets. I just know how bad it was from the media and from what everybody was saying about him. But when we look at the career of Sam Darnold, what do we actually see, right? For years, the narrative, it was written for him. They never gave him a chance to write his own story. They called him a bust in New York while he was being sacked 98 times. They laughed at him for seeing ghosts while he was running for his life behind a broken offensive line. They labeled him a career backup when he was bounced from Carolina to San Francisco. But Sam Darnold, just like what he said in his post-game conference after winning the NFC Championship, he didn't listen to the noise. He didn't let those 71.9 passer rating in Carolina define who he is. He used his time in San Francisco to study. He even credited Brock Purdy in helping him get to where he is now. He used his year in Minnesota to prove he was elite, putting up 35 touchdowns and silencing the skeptics. And now, after a masterclass performance in the NFC Championship game, throwing 3 touchdowns under pressure, he has done what many said he couldn't do, and that was not only lead the Seattle Seahawks back to a Super Bowl for the first time since 2014, but he silenced his doubters. He silenced his critics. Stephen A. Smith was mainly the critic he had throughout this entire season. People kept saying that they didn't trust him under pressure. They didn't trust him when in big moments. They didn't trust him in the clutch. But let's not sit here and act like when he played the Rams to get the number 1 seed, he came up in the clutch. He beat the Rams in the clutch. And this was after a game where Matthew Stafford and Puka Nacua went ballistic. I mean, Puka Nacua had like 250 receiving yards by himself in that game. And that was without Devontae Adams. So you can say whatever you want, but I think Sam Darnold has proven to be a top 10 quarterback stamped. And he has proven to be somebody that you can count on to win you the big games in the big moments. The lesson here isn't just about football. It's about the fact that your first chapter, or even your third or fourth chapter, doesn't have to be your ending. Sometimes you aren't the problem. And I don't think Sam Darnold was the problem at the New York Jets. It was clear that he had no offensive line, no offensive weapons, and a terrible defense. He was just in the wrong environment. Sam found himself in Minnesota. Hell, I can argue he found himself being the backup for the 49ers. He found his Seattle, and he found himself there too. So to my ladies who love football, if you're ever feeling like you're seeing ghosts in your own life right now, and that goes for any players in the league right now, that goes for Joe Burrow, that goes for Josh Allen, that goes for Dak Prescott, that goes for Lamar Jackson, all quarterbacks who have been through adversity in their careers. If people have already counted you out, take a page out of Sam Darnold's playbook. Keep grinding, keep studying, and wait for your moment. Because when it comes, you won't just walk into it. You will lead your team to the Super Bowl. All right, that is the end of the video. That is all I have for you today. My name is Kenya Winston, and this is Kenya Knows. To my ladies who love football, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this with your girlfriends. And follow me on all my social medias. I am on TikTok, Instagram, and Threads at Kenya Knows _. Bye.